Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. This is Jackie, and this is my second time filming this video because I didn't like what I did. Some of the things I said in the first time I started filming this, so I'm starting over again. So this is kind of an update video, but it's kind of specifically it's a video where I talk about how I had planned some reading themes for the month, and I'm not following through with them, and I feel bad about it. And which maybe you guys probably don't even care. You're just want to see my reviews and stuff, which is great. But I kind of care, and I still kind of feel bad, even if maybe you guys don't care what I read, just as long as I'm reading and sharing what I'm reading, and you happen to like the books that I'm reading. Like and maybe there's a chance that you guys do care, and but I don't think any of you guys are gonna get mad at me if I don't follow through with the themes I said I was gonna do. But that's what this video is about. But I wanted to do, for this first quarter, I wanted to do kind of a Russian theme because I feel like I associate Russia with wintry weather. And then in March I was gonna do a Rome theme, which I could still do. But the problem is that all of a sudden I've been motivated to read other books that have nothing to do with my themes. Like, I've over the years I realized that I'm not good with planning that far ahead, or planning like specific books that I'm reading. Like, it was still kind of a loose TBR, but I did have books in mind I wanted to read, and now I did not pick up those books. I mean, I picked up some, like, I did start reading Anna Karenina and continue. I mean, I had been reading it for a while and keep putting it down and coming back to it. Because, like, when I put it down a book, as long as it's still on my shelf, or still sitting on my coffee stand or something, I mean, my little coffee table I have by my reading chair, then I'm still interested and I still want to read it. If it's in the donation pile, then I'm done with it. I mean, I do have a separate pile of books that I'm not sure if I want to donate them just yet. But yeah, if it's still sitting on my shelf, then it's a book is one that I want to read. And Anna Karenina is obviously one I want to read. So I started it, and I was enjoying it. It was good, but then I got distracted by other books, which seems to always happen to me. And especially books that, especially when it's that long of a book, and if it's a slower read, then yeah, I get distracted really easily by books that won't, which I am trying to work on. That is one of the things I wanted to work on this year. One of my goals was to work on not putting down books for too long and not letting me get distracted just because a book isn't going to take me as long as another book will take me to read. So I did finish The Physician, but, and I feel very accomplished with that. The Physician by Noah Gordon. But that is a book that I did pick up a couple years ago and start reading a couple years ago. So I didn't start from the beginning. So I'm still working. It's still something I need to work on and, like, get books. And I don't know if I'll ever get to the point where I'll be able to read a book that long within the whole year and not start it in another year and then pick it up again after a year or a couple years later. I don't know if I'll ever get to that point where I won't be doing that. Maybe I will one day. I mean, I should be positive about that and believe that I can do that, but I don't know. I'm not sure if that will happen or not. And maybe that's okay, because a lot of people on here have said sometimes it's, slower. Reading a book and taking a long time to read it is not necessarily a bad thing, especially because then you're really spending a lot of time with that book. Because once I put it down, I'm going to get into another book soon enough. Like, because I have a lot of books on my shelf, and I'm feeling like, oh, I need to read these books so that I can decide if I want to keep them or not. Because I don't have the shelf space to continuously keep books. I'm not one of those people, like, I'm not like Steve Donahue where I have a whole room for all my bookshelves, because this is my only room, is my bedroom. So I don't have the space to have, like, to be surrounded by bookshelves. And the only other shelf besides my bookshelves is my shelf with all my DVDs, and I'm not getting rid of this because I love movies and TV shows just as much as I love reading books. So, yeah, I do occasionally go through that shelf and think, like, is there anything on that? Any DVDs or Blu-rays on that shelf that I generally am not, I'm good with not keeping them anymore. Like, are there movies I'm just not interested in anymore? But, like, especially with the Disney movies, because now we have Disney Plus, thanks to my sister. I don't know if she'll keep that forever or not, because, of course, the kids are gonna get older. But I think that's why Disney is trying to go into why Disney is this big conglomerate that's trying to tackle all these different companies, because they want to keep their audience. So it's like, if you have more adult content on, like, stuff that adults can enjoy, that is still somewhat kid appropriate, then, because they have ESPN on there and Hulu on there. So I think I think the reason why they're buying these companies that are more, like, not just kids fantasy movies and stuff, is because they want to keep people using Disney Plus. So it's like, we need to go into other companies that aren't just, kids movies, or kids TV shows. I think that's why they're, like, have Hulu and ESPN bundles and everything on there on Disney Plus. But anyway, so back to the books. So yeah, so I haven't picked up, so I put Anna Karenina down, and I have not even picked up Blood Heir or the sequel to King of Scars. That has been sitting not on my shelf in the literal sense. It's like not on my shelf, because I figured, I'll take it off there so I can see it. And I'm still not. Like, I keep going back and forth if I want to continue it or not, and actually read the physical copy, and then I'm thinking, I'll just watch the show. But when I think about it, like, I'm thinking about it right now because I'm talking to you about the book, then I'm thinking, okay, after I film this, I need to pick it up. But the thing is, I'm in the middle of other books, and I want to finish other books before I pick up a new one, before I add a new one to the list of books I'm currently reading. Which is always my biggest problem, because I end up reading a lot of books. I'm one of those multiple books at the same time readers. And, my other biggest problem is, like, especially this is when it comes to classics, where there's an author that they have two really famous works, and I buy them and I want to read both of them. Or, like, I re-buy it, but in a nice a different copy that I like better. Also, I'm like, I want to pick up that one, or, like, if someone talks about it and talks about both those books, I'm like, okay, I want to read that one, and I want to read this one, but, should I read this one first or this one first? Like, this one I have with Tolstoy. Like, I have Anna Karenina, and I'm like, I should, maybe I should pick up that one, because that's not as long as War and Peace. But then all of a sudden I get, like, but I want to read War and Peace right now, but I feel like I should finish Anna Karenina first. So it's like, and then it's the same thing in Dostoevsky with The Idiot and the Brothers Karamazov, where I'm like, I started Brothers Karamazov, but then I keep thinking about The Idiot, and I'm like, okay, I should finish Brothers Karamazov first, but I don't know how long that's going to take me, and I'm kind of more intrigued by The Idiot in that moment, but then I come back to Brothers Karamazov, so I go back and forth a lot, and it's very frustrating, because then I can't, but anyway, so that's one of my, that's part of my overwhelming with my TBR feeling. And then I do need to read The Death of Kings, which is the second one to Gates of Rome, so I think I will probably at least tackle that as far as the Rome theme goes, because I did attempt to tackle this one, and I still want to read it, but it's very dense. And this writing style is very different. This nonfiction writing style, and Ward Gibbons' writing style, is very different from some of the nonfiction books today. So I'll be the first one to admit that some of the stuff is a little confusing for me, and I'm trying to follow along and understanding this. And maybe that makes me dumb or whatever. But you know what? Not everybody can be a genius and understand and read this kind of stuff and really be able to just, like, Like, I mean, it's not super complicated. It's just a lot of information and a lot of stuff I don't know. I mean, in fact, this is the abridged version of it. So I don't even want to even tackle the famous. This is one of the few times where I'm perfectly content with the abridged version of this, because I mean, already this is chunky enough as it is. But it's a lot of information, and the writing style, like I said, is very different. So it's very overwhelming, and I'm trying to read and understand it. It's definitely a book that I need to read when I can focus on it the most. So I don't know if I will continue with this. I will continue with it, but I'm probably not going to read all of it in March. But I might still pick it up and read some of it. And try to get into it and understand it and take in the information. But you know what? There's no shame in SparkNotes. If you don't understand a classic, then go do SparkNotes. There's no shame in that, in my opinion, of going to SparkNotes and to read what SparkNotes says about a book. If you're having trouble with it, especially if it's an older work. So yeah, I'll probably, like I said, I'll probably get, like, Death of Kings and maybe a little bit of this. So what actually led me to this feeling of overwhelmed and anxiety and feeling guilty and stuff was actually, and not in a bad way, like, because I enjoyed this guy's videos, was Mike's book reviews, which he's great sci-fi fantasy book reviewer. Definitely recommend checking him out. He's reading Percy Jackson with his son right now. I think he's doing it right now. And he's a big Stephen King fan. And in 2021, he did videos where he talked to other Stephen King fans about what was their gateway into Stephen King, why they love Stephen King, what their favorite characters are from Stephen King novels, and what their favorite Stephen King book is, and if it's not your gateway book. And how some people, including himself, got into Stephen King because of the movie adaptations, which I don't think there's anything wrong with. I think sometimes it's just easier to get into a Stephen King via the adaptation, because there's things and even though I think he's very readable and very accessible, it's just his books are super long, and then there's sometimes stuff in his books that not everybody is comfortable with. And then also, there's also, like, a lot of older books that I think sometimes the adaptation is better or more appealing to get into. But it's just funny that for some of, including himself, some of them, that what got them into reading Stephen King books is the adaptations of the Stephen King books. Like, in a way, that could almost be my story, too. I think. Because I want to say I saw the It miniseries from 1990 first. Before I actually physically read the book. Because I was definitely a couch potato when I was a kid. Watched a lot of movies and TV shows. That's why, if you're more of a movies and TV show person, that's what you are. That's what you are. If you like that better. I will appreciate more if you get into books, and read. But if you're a couch potato, self-proclaimed couch potato, good for you. And that's, I won't judge you for that. Not that it matters what I think, but, about that. But anyway, so I remembered that I wanted to do a project. You guys know that I mentioned in past videos that I've been doing a Stephen King project, and it feels like, because I'm going so slow with it feels like I'm not making a lot of progress, even though I probably am making more progress than I think I am. It's just going really slow, and I'm not reading a Stephen King every month like I originally planned. But, like, I've read Revival, Misery, one of my favorite books, Pet Cemetery. I've read some of the books from some of the short stories from Skeleton Crew, and I did like them. I read Full Dark No Stars. I decided that was not for me. I mean, I like some of them, but not all. I like them well enough, but I did read the first 2 Dark Tower books in 2021, and I did intend to read the 3rd one and possibly the 4th one in 2023, but that did not happen. And I'm trying to think, I've technically read all the short story, well, at least 3 of the short stories from 4 Past Midnight, but I've only saw the adaptation of the, Secret Garden, Secret Window, or Secret Window, Secret Garden. I don't know which, like, the movie adaptation is Secret Window. And Carrie, I read way before we even moved here. It's just, like I said, it's going slow. Needful Things is one of my favorites. So if Mike Book Review is watching this, which I doubt it, but if he ever does subscribe to my channel, to let him know that I do love Needful Things. It's one of my favorites. And I should do a video where I talk about my favorite kings so far. That way I can assure him that I do, love Needful Things. Because he was saying in one of his videos that he feels like it's underrated. And I love Leland Gott's character. And I feel like I already want to reread that one now that I'm thinking about it. And I wanted to get into his Stephen King's multiverse because he was kind of one of the first people, because he started the multiverse idea back in the 60s. I don't know, well, although, would you call Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderlings a multiverse? I mean, I guess you would. But I don't know when she started writing those books, so I don't know if Stephen King came first or she did. But, and I don't even know if you consider her books a multiverse. Because I think, maybe you would, I don't know. I don't know if any of you guys, maybe one of you guys can tell me if you would consider Robin Hobb a multiverse writer. I mean, because all of her books do take place in different parts of the same world. Just different locations. And they're all linked together. So I don't know. I mean, and like I said, I don't know when she started writing. So I don't know if Stephen King came first, because he was writing the 60s. He was born at the end of the 40s. And he was a kid of the 50s. So he was writing his works in the 60s, which, considering how that guy lived his life, it's amazing. It's so impressive that he's still around and he's still writing. He's really, I mean, he probably has better doctors than some people that have hard lives, that have harsh lives when it comes to their health. He probably has better doctors because he's, stinking rich from all of his books. Because no matter what, even if people do not like his work, not everybody loves his work, and some people think his work is trash, he's still making a lot more money than most people who criticize his work, probably. And he's not trying to be someone that has a literary merit. He's writing books that are fun and he enjoys reading. So, you know what? He's making more money than most people. He's probably, so it's like, yeah, you can criticize him all you want, but you know what, that guy's laughing all the way to the bank. But yeah, all of his books are all linked together. He writes, most of his books are either in Derry or Castle Rock, not all of them. There's some books in different places. And they're all linked together, which I think is such a cool idea. The problem is some of his books are just not my thing. Like I always say, as the one example I always give is I have no interest in the Mr. Mercedes because I have no interest in crime stories. Like I have tried detective stories. Like I think The Free to Climb was kind of fun, but I haven't picked up another Free to Climb in a while. And the same thing and I attempted Agatha Christie and I liked the ones I read. But again, it didn't, because I just get bored with that genre, and sometimes it's also a little too close to home because it's too relatable to the real world. Like, it's a little too close to what could really happen in real life. And I think that's part of why I love fantasy, and I always want there to be a supernatural element in a story where it's like, it suggests that it could be supernatural, or where there could be a logical real world explanation, and I want it to be supernatural. Maybe a small part of me is like, I would rather it be supernatural than too close to home where it could really happen in real life. Like, that's probably also a small part of it. But it's also because it's just fun. Fantasy is just fun. Escapism. But, so it's like, I want to explore the multiverse, but then there are just some books that I don't want to read. And also, it's too late for me to read them in a certain order because I don't have all the books. And some of them I've just decided to donate. Like, and yeah, some of them I could get at the library. But again, the biggest problem is his books are chunksters. They're big. And I don't want to, and I said this before, I don't like having to keep renewing books that are going to take me a long time to read, because then I feel like I can only read that book so I can finish it and then return it. And when I want to read other books, because I'm a slow reader. So it's like, so that's why it just drives me crazy. And I just want, makes me anxious when I'm in the back of my mind. I'm thinking, yes, I can renew it, but I have to eventually finish it and return it. So, like, his short stories are helpful in that because they're not as long. He does have shorter works like Elevation and The Institute. And some of his crime, if I was interested in reading his crime dramas, some of his crime works aren't that long either. But yeah, so that's why I don't like getting most of Stephen King's works from the library, because then I'm like, it's going to take me a long time to read, and I don't want to have to keep renewing it because it will irk me, because I know that I can only focus on that book because I want to finish it so I can eventually return it. And, so I'm hoping that people would understand that if I went, and would get that, why I don't like, getting chunkier books. Like, audiobooks is a little bit better because at least I can change the speed a little bit. And it's not me trying to read the book, it's someone else reading it to me, which does count, thank you very much. It's the technicality when people say, oh, it's not reading if you're listening to an audiobook. Because yes, the only difference is you're not physically reading the words, you're just listening to it. Someone else is reading it to you, but you're still taking in the story. But anyway, so there's that. There's the Stephen King project. I want to go through Stephen King and at least read as much Stephen King as I'm interested in. And I also, as I showed you in my Christmas haul, I got the Stephen King Universe Guide book. So that should really help. At least that will tell me where some things are and will give some background. So if I don't want to read every single one of his books because I'm just not interested in every single one of his books, I can at least refer to that if I want to find out. And maybe I'll change my mind one day. Maybe I will read one day, but, read the Mr. Mercedes trilogy. But at the moment, I'm not interested in crime dramas. There might, like I said, I made exceptions and read Agatha Christie and read the Frida Klein series. And even attempted, what is her name? The one of the really popular, Tana, is it Tana French? I don't know, the one who wrote The Witch Elm and the Dublin Murder Squad, that's what the series is called. I did try to attempt those, but then, again, she writes chunksters, and, yeah, I think it is Tana French, that's her name, I think, but her books are chunksters, and like I said, when it comes to chunky books, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I better focus on this book, and so I can eventually return it, and I don't have to keep renewing it, and it's like, so that, I'm sorry, I know not everybody will understand that. For me, it makes me anxious, and feeling like, okay, I better finish this book, so I can eventually return it. Like I said, audiobooks is a little different, because I can adjust the speed of an audiobook. And then I can actually multitask with an audiobook, and maybe, even if I don't take in every single word, every single aspect of the story, which is where, reading one that you read before can really help, because then you don't have to feel bad if you're not listening to everything the audiobook says because you're watching TV or watching a YouTube video. if you've read the book already, then you know what's going to happen already. So it's not a big deal if you don't hear every single word of the audiobook. Like that's I'm rereading the ACOTAR series through audiobook, and it's like I know the series very well, so it's like I don't have to, it's not a big deal if I'm not listening to every single word of the audiobook, which I need to check and see when ACOWAR is available. But anyway, and then I also was reminded of some of the other reading projects, like I want to do the Cosmere because I still have not finished Way of Kings, and that's a chunkster. So I need to pick up that one, and I keep meaning to because I enjoy it when I do read it. It's a chunkster. It's a long book. It's 1,000-page mark book. So I need to pick it up again and start reading it again. But then there's all these other fantasy books I'm reading. Which I will say this. I do feel accomplished that I finally read and finished Ruin of Kings. I feel good about that I finished that book. And that's a chunkster. That's a long one. So I felt very proud of myself that I finished that one. So I wanted to read those, and I recently bought I recently ordered and got for Christmas. You guys know I had the UK covers of Alloy of Law and this Era 2 Mistborn series. I don't have the Lost Metal yet, but that one just came out, so. And I'm going to read the rest of the series before I order book 4. But anyway. So there is that as well. There is the Cosmere that I want to dive deep into and get into that. And then the Realm of the Elderling is another series that feels like a multiverse that I need to get to. Like, I still gonna read that original Live Ship Trader series, because that's one of those fantasy series that I started the first book and then put it down. I meant to read it last summer, and then it fell through because, Terry was visiting, so I was like, oh, I better pick a book to focus on, and I was like, well, that one trilogy, it doesn't have anything after it that, the Poppy War trilogy, so let me make some progress on that and read the second book, Dragon Republic, and then I will start the other one. And I will get the third book and start reading that. And like I said, I want to focus on only that. And it was just because Terry was visiting, I was not focusing so much on my books, on reading. I was more focusing on my time with her. And spending time with her. And, because we're not the kind of friends who just read. We're not the kind of friends who read together. Like, I mean, we do both read by the pool, but that's because we were just sitting, like, laying in our chairs and then swimming. So, yeah, of course, that's a good time to, crack open a book. So that's the only time we read together, Better than that, when she was here, I was focused on spending time with her, doing activities with her. And, I was getting into Stranger Things because of her, and, we also wanted to talk, and she also wanted to chat and catch up. So I didn't get as much reading done, and when she was visiting, I just, wanted to focus on one book. So I didn't pick up the first book in the Live Ship Trader series, and I did not continue with Moby Dick at the time, which I was thinking, I'll read that during the summer because it's ocean and stuff like that, and chasing a whale. So there's also the Realm of the Elderling series. But the bigger projects are, like I said, the Stephen King multiverse, and then the Cosmere, and then the last one that I recently was intended to do this year was the Middle-earth universe, Tolkien's world. I have been slowly collecting Tolkien books, the books that were edited and put out from publication by Christopher Tolkien. I think it's his son. I've been slowly collecting those, and it's like I wanted to dive deep into the world of Tolkien in the world of Middle-earth. But again, another big commitment. And I don't want my whole TBR for the year to be dominated by those authors' works, because I have all these other fantasy series and other genres I want to focus on. So I'm trying to think of a plan. Like, I don't think I can plan ahead too far in advance, but I still want to come up with a basic plan that's a little more like has more of an idea that I can focus on. And but like I said, my biggest concern is failing on the follow through of this plan. And I don't want to pressure myself, but I still want to do this plan and read these and continue with these projects and make a lot more progress on them than I have been. So it's like I don't know what to do. And like I definitely think I'm better at figuring things out like this on my own. But I do need but I do like talking about it with people. Whether I'm talking to myself or talking to you guys on here or talking to like my dad or someone. I do like talking it out. Even if I feel more like I want to come up with a plan on my own. I mean, if you guys want to make any suggestions for me, that's great, and I will check them out. And so I'm not saying that. I'm not saying don't make suggestions. I'm saying I will appreciate if you do make suggestions, and I will definitely check them out if anyone comments and gives me an idea or tries to give me words of wisdom or whatever you want to call it. But like I said, I just wanted to talk about it and express it, and it also gives me content to give to you guys. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about it and talk it out, and like maybe this will get my wheels turning for a plan, figure out what I'm going to do next. So I guess that's all I gotta say. I'm currently the Stephen King book I started was Salem's Lot, because this is a reread for me. But to be fair, like at first, I felt guilty because it's another reread. But I've only done one other reread, and that I just finished it, and that was Persuasion. Oh well, actually no, I've done three rereads this year: Persuasion, The Time Machine, and now this. But to be fair, with The Time Machine and this one, it's been so many years since I read, because I feel like I read The Time Machine, I think I read it in middle school, and then this one probably around the same time. So it's like I'm reading them for the first time, even though technically I'm not. But I watched Mike's book review on the Salem's Lot, and he talked about stuff that I don't remember, and I just realized that the only reason I remember the Father Callahan part is because of the 2003 movie adaptation, which turns out, actually I shouldn't be surprised by this, but it turns out that it's very different in the book. It goes in a different direction than the 2003 movie did with it. Still like it, and I can't help but like a lot of people say they associate the 1970s adaptation, but I never watched that one, and I don't know if I will have access to that one, but I did see a clip one time years ago on like a video on YouTube or something, but not enough to make it memorable. But this one, that 2003 adaptation, despite there's differences, and I know like people like Mike himself does not like how a lot of people make Stephen King's adaptations more modern, even if they're set in like the 70s or the 50s or something. A lot of people make it more modern, which I gotta disagree with them there. I think it is necessary to make them modern sometimes, because then I think the company, it makes it easier for the filmmaking company not to have to worry about, we got to spend money to make it historical, to make it look like that time period. I think that's why, like with it, I think the most recent It adaptation is, it made it easy for them to make it, to not, go so far back into the 50s, to go forward into the 80s, so that when they get to the adult timeline for the main characters in it, they don't have to do too much like spending and changing it, which I get if that's annoying, and because it's, you're not staying true to his work, but at the same time it doesn't bother me. And I think sometimes for modern audiences, I think it does work. I think it does work better sometimes, because people feel like they don't connect. Not every person watching it will connect with that time period and will like that time period. Like, it's more relatable if it's in the time period you grew up in. Like, older people might appreciate if it's authentic to the time period, older readers. But younger readers that are getting Stephen King, granted, maybe not. Maybe that's not the case for, maybe that's just me, because I am fine with that when they change the time period. I'm cool with it if they keep the time period, but I'm also cool with it if they don't change, if they change it and modernize it. And like I said, I think I understand why they modernize it. But like, they change something that happens to the character Father Callahan in the 2003 adaptation, and I realized that's how I remember it. That's what I remember most. Is that part. And that's only because of the 2003 adaptation. So, and I barely remember some of this stuff, so I'm glad I'm rereading it. And also, this is a different copy than the original copy that I had of Salem's Lot. You guys know I had a lot of mass markets, especially of Stephen King. So, this is actually the same type of edition as The Shining, which I like that. It was a nice surprise that some of my editions do match a little bit, to way like keep them together. But yeah, so this is his take on the vampire story. Like, the tagline is, "What if Dracula came to suburbia?" It's kind of also a haunted house story. You know, I forgot about that. That there's the whole Marston house in the story, and this is his second full-length novel, and this is when we are introduced to the trope of the writer as the main character. And then he just kept going back to that, and, you know, I have mixed feelings about that, because I kind of roll my eyes whenever I see it. It's like, oh, of course, the main character's a writer, but then at the same time, it's a way for him to, you know, it's easy to do that. It makes it easier for him to write the main character, because they are a writer, so he can relate to that. And it's a way to get it's almost, I think at times, a way for him to exercise his demons a little bit. Like, the stresses of being a writer and publishing books and being popular, and like, that's why he wrote Misery. Because he got caught, you know, people figured out his pseudonym, Frederick Bachman, or not Frederick Bachman, that's the guy, that's the Scandinavian writer, Bachman, it's the Bachman books. The last name is Bachman, but I cannot remember the first name. What he wrote. Let me see if it's in here. Richard Bachman. That's what he called him. That's what it was. The Richard Bachman called himself. He was someone figured out the Richard Bachman, that he was writing under that name, so he wrote Misery as a kind of an answer to people being critical about that. I think that was it. I think that's what I heard. But yeah, this is once again really good. He does great character work. You know, I know people take issues, and there's aspects of Stephen King that people don't like, but I still love him. And then the other two books I'm in the middle of are The American Sphinx, the character of Thomas Jefferson, which this is really interesting, because I did not realize how much people love Thomas Jefferson. He has a fan base. People love him as a president, and people have these specific opinions about him, and thinking he's great. He was the best president ever. And this is kind of, this author, Joseph J. Ellis, tries to be more objective about it and show both sides of Jefferson, not just this glorified version of him that people seem to have. And show that he wasn't a saint. He wasn't Mr. Perfect all the time, and he had his flaws, and he was a man of contradictions. So it's interesting. It's just, this is more interesting for me than this one at the moment. So I'm currently reading, so yeah, I haven't got very far in this one, and of course I can't help but think of Hamilton, and Jefferson and Hamilton as I'm reading this. Or think about 1776, the movie adaptation with William Daniels, and I don't know who played Jefferson. I don't remember, but yeah, I keep thinking about that one too. And then last but not least, I decided to go ahead and start this because this is one of my goals, is to get more than one series finished. So I'm going to read this one, and then soon, in a couple months, I'm going to read I'm looking at the book right now. The Burning God. I need to pick that up because it's the third book in the Poppy War trilogy. So I want to, so that I can at least have 2 trilogy read before the end of the year. So just the one, like I did last year. Like last year, I only had 1 trilogy read. And I also want to finish the Skeleton Crew this year as well. So I need to start that now. I mean, not like now, but I want to start that now. Soon. I keep saying now, I mean soon. I want to start that one soon and continue with reading those, like the Word Processor, and that's the next story. But yeah, I started reading this. I got through the first 4 chapters. Like I said, it picks up where the second book left off, and the aftermath of what happened at the end of the second book. So there's a big mess for Thomas to clean up and deal with. I'm just worried about his reactions with everybody, with like his son, when he is finally reunited with his son, and Adamant and everything, and just seeing if people are gonna be, like, because I know his relationship with his son is kind of, is still very rocky and messed up, and I'm worried that his son is gonna finally blow up and get mad at him. Because this guy Thomas has a burden. He has the weight of the world on his shoulders, I feel like. But I do feel bad for Tennille too, but I mean, he's in a horrible situation right now. But and maybe this is because I'm an adult in my 30s, but I mean, of course, I'm not a parent, but I definitely I feel like as an adult, I'm definitely more sympathetic to adult characters and the burdens they bear, unless they do something stupid and, and they do something really, like, unless they're going down a very villainous path. But yeah, I read the first 4 chapters as much as I can, and yeah, I'm enjoying it. I once again love this trilogy. I'm having so much fun with it. So, yeah, so that's kind of where I am with what I'm reading right now, and how I don't know what I'm going to do. Like I said, I have those 3 projects and reading projects I want to work on. But anyway, so if you don't have any words of wisdom, feel free to share what you're currently reading. If you're feeling like anxious about your reading already, or if you're not, are you enjoying your reading? I mean, this year has started out great. I'm doing really well. I feel really happy with my January, with what I read in January and what I'm reading in February. I do want to read maybe 1 or 2 more short stories from that collection by Oscar Wilde. I've been reading that too. That's a collection, but it's a collection of short stories, just like Skeleton Crew, so it's like, I do want to read some of those, and I did read something other than Stephen King in the horror genre. You guys know Black Mouth. And then at some point I'm going to read, there's another one I have here that I'm going to read, I'm going to pick up soon as well. And I have read one of the books other than, some of the books in this collection, in this pile I have on this coffee table. I did read one of those, so I feel happy about that, and so I feel good. It's just at the moment I'm feeling anxious about, like, those 3 main projects that I want to work on book-wise, but I don't want them to dominate my whole TBR for the year. So anyway, so if you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, click subscribe if you haven't already, click the bell notification if you want to be notified when I post new videos, and I will talk to y'all later. Alright, bye!